And those are the things that, you love and you learn to grow with. That's what makes you better at this industry. You learn how to communicate with people better. You learn how to work with your industry partners and to get things done that other people may not have an idea of who to communicate with or who to talk to. That's why we sit down and we try to see what are you looking to accomplish and setting up that smart strategy to make sure that you have all your goals outlined and we build the plan to get you to where you want to be. It makes people feel a lot more confident.
It's like what we're all hearing on the lending side is interest rates, interest rates, interest rates. Ironically, realtors were probably hearing about interest rates for the first time more so than the houses themselves.
It's a process. It's a proven, repeatable system. It's backed by market research, and we know what we need to do to get you there.
That is how you calculate the cost of waiting. These people are house hostages with interest rates that they probably don't want to ever get rid of, and now they're in homes they don't like anymore that don't suit their needs. Hey everyone, welcome to the Nest Podcast. Today's guest is Dyllan Hawkins, realtor with Katie Real Estate. Dyllan, thanks for coming on, bud.
Thank you for having me, D.
Of course. So look, I want to get into how you got into real estate and how you and I got connected, but one thing I want to do for our audience is give them some tips. Challenging market over the last 18 to 24 months. Things have changed. I've changed a lot. I'm sure you've evolved some too. If you were to give 3 boots on the ground, tactical things that anyone watching today could use in their real estate or their professional sales career to kind of elevate their activities and their income and what they do day to day, what would you say?
Man, one of the biggest things I've found that has worked for me is learning how to be a better listener. You realize you sit down with a bunch of folks and they have a ton of questions, and it's not always just about a sale. You want to make sure that you're actually there and active and present for what they're talking about and making sure that you can help guide them in whatever it may be.
Better listener.
Yeah.
It's a big one. I have seen that a lot too, and I have kind of put that into practice as well. Mm-hmm. We tend to talk a lot. It's required with the job, right? Because people are asking us a lot of questions as well. We're a wealth of information and knowledge. It's important. We need to get that out to them. But I know that it's something I've been working on as well. It sounds like you are also, is I have to stop and take a breath.
Yeah, man. I mean, and when you do, you realize like there's a lot behind what someone is motivated to buy a house or whatever it may be in whatever industry in sales. And so whenever you look at it from that perspective and you come from a helpful place, you want to be a little bit more genuine. That's the next thing that I've trying to implement more in my business. Coming from a grateful place, just a place of help. You talk to a lot of people cold calling, and they probably don't want to talk to you. They're like, get off my phone. I don't want to talk to you. I'm like, oh, sorry, man. I just wanted to make sure you're okay. I just want to help. And when you come from that place, people's whole perspective and their mindset changes, and you can definitely tell. They can definitely tell when you're being genuine and truthful to them.
Sure. I think a knee-jerk reaction for a lot of people, particularly when they come through the online leads, whatever the platform is. I know mine is. It's crazy. I mean, I do this for a living, and I'm the same way. Part of that is just recognizing that we're consumers also. Is my knee-jerk reaction a lot of times is to say no, or just not right now, or I'm busy. I was listening to a podcast for a top producing guy out of Tennessee, and he was saying that he was talking about his follow-up process. And same type of deal. It comes from a place of wanting to serve. Mm-hmm. And obviously, if we help families, we get to help our own. But he said, look, every day, if I get a lead, text, call, email, 7 consecutive days, taking out the weekends. And he had gotten some feedback that was a bit excessive. And he said, look, if somebody reaches out to me, whether they know it's me or not, they click the button, I want information. He operates under the assumption that they need help and that he follows his 7-day follow-up until he's told to stop, because he's operating under the assumption that they need help and that it's urgent. And I had never heard anybody explain it that way, but like if you come at it with that perspective and that mindset, serving, you have a problem, I'm here to fix it. You need advice, I'm here to give it to you. Then he doesn't feel like he's bothering people anymore.
You're not a salesman. You're someone that just wants to help.
That's right. Okay. So what would be a third one? You talked about coming from a place of just being helpful and a place of service. Second one would be coming from a place of gratitude. What would be number 3?
Yeah, and the third one is just being a little bit more direct. You know, sometimes we are our own worst enemies. And so whenever you can sit down with someone and make them see like, hey, it's not as hard as you think. Let me show you the proper steps and the guidance to get you to where you want to be. It's a little bit easier. And so I'm just learning how to guide people in the right direction to make sure that they're confident in making the right decisions for themselves.
I think the part about being direct, I've noticed a bit of a pivot with that as well. It's not from being pushy. It's not from being aggressive. If I'm understanding you correctly, my version, we're probably the same. My direct is, listen, this is a tough market. More information, more data is required to make decisions. If there's not clarity and there's no comfort, any of those things, you're not going to act. And you came to me because you want to take action in maybe purchasing your first home, maybe it's your 5th home, maybe you're trying to buy an investment property, whatever it is. The longer it takes for you to come to a conclusion, whether you do it or not, is getting that information. Now, being direct is, what are you looking to do? Mm-hmm. What are your top 6 things you'd like to accomplish? I always catch people off guard with that one because they were like, man, I'm trying to buy a house. And I'm like, no, okay, what are 6 things you're trying to accomplish? Obviously, you're trying to buy a house. What's super important to you? Is it how much money you do or don't have to come to closing with? Is it the timeline, like you want to do something now, but you know you're probably not ready for 90 days? Is it closing really fast? Whatever it is, give me 3, 4, 5, 6, hell, you might have 10. And then I also ask them, what is the number one thing that you're trying to accomplish here? Because if you have 10 and I only do 2 through 8, then you're not going to be 100% satisfied. Mm-hmm. I got to at least knock that first one.
And that all comes back to being a good listener. You know,
That's
you
right.
see those things and everybody's goals look different. That's why we have these consultations. That's why we sit down and we try to see what are you looking to accomplish and setting up that smart strategy to make sure that you have all your goals outlined and we build the plan to get you to where you want to be. It makes people feel a lot more confident getting that next step going and talking to a lender and getting their finances together. And so that's the fun part about it. That's when we really get into the thick of it, you know?
I think a lot of times if you ask someone that question, what are you looking to accomplish? They don't know how to answer it.
They never really sat back and thought about it.
They haven't. And the only time they think about it is if you ask good questions and then
shut up,
let them talk. So you mentioned earlier, sometimes they don't realize that they're in their own way and they're blocking themselves. Where, it's usually a mental block of some sort or just not having enough information to go and accomplish what they want to accomplish. But we do that too. Yeah. I have to get out of my own way to allow them to tell me what they need help with.
Exactly. And, it also comes back to where we just want to be so hands-on and we start to care so much for our clients. Yep. And you got to realize, like, some things are win and lose, and you got to realize what's really important to get to where we need to be.
That's right. So talk to me about how you got to Katy Real Estate. I know you were born and raised here, homegrown product, Lafayette High.
Yeah. I ended up going to Northwestern State, played sports for a little while, and then I ended up graduating during COVID of 2020 with an industrial engineering technology degree.
So, no way.
Yeah, did project management for 2.5 years.
Spring or fall of 2020?
Spring of 2020. So May of 2020, right when everything was confusing, nobody knew what was happening.
Wow.
So
did you even get to go to graduation?
No, actually, I graduated on an iPad sitting outside. So it was a complete weird time, trying to figure out, okay, what's the next steps? I done been through 4 years of school, have a great degree. Like, what's now? Everything's shut down, sitting at home, lost.
So your graduation picture was like for your mom was a screenshot of you like holding the iPad.
Basically a FaceTime.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, so you Lafayette to Natchitoches,
Natchitoches.
and then after that,
Moved back to Lafayette after Natchitoches when COVID happened, and started applying for jobs, just trying to figure out what was the next steps of how I wanted to figure out what my next career would be. You know, I always worked bar jobs in school. This was my first real career to where I'm gonna have a big boy job. You know, first 20-year-old kid out of college, he's trying to figure out what he wants for his life, and just applying on jobs. And I was just applying for jobs on Indeed. And I ended up coming across Katie Real Estate, started doing some...
While you were looking for industrial, like things related to engineering and industrial technology in the energy industry, you found real estate.
Found real estate. It was commercial real estate. And I was like, what's this? I started doing some research, just kind of did some got some background information on Katie.
Okay.
And I applied, had a great interview. Before I could even make it to the stop sign, they were calling me like, hey, you got the job, come sign paperwork. And I don't know. It's one of those things where now that I'm a part of such a great team, you see the environment that you're around, you see how their process actually works, and it's not quick. And for them to call me before I even get out the parking lot, basically, it just shows how much confidence they had in me and makes me want to do well and exceed their expectations, you know?
I knew it had been a minute. I didn't realize we're almost at a half decade of working together.
Yeah, man. Time flies when you're having a good time.
That's true. That's true. So process taking a while. You know, I think I would say that's a misconception a lot of people have about professionals in our industry. You can make a lot of money really fast. Not true.
It's a grind. I mean, that's anything.
All they see is the pictures on the internet. Hey, we had a closing today. Like, hey, I'm marketing a podcast.
But what happened in between that? What was the struggle?
A lot.
Who you have to argue with. And those are the things that, you know, you love and you learn to grow with. You know, that's what makes you better at this industry. You learn how to communicate with people better. You learn how to work with your industry partners and to get things done that other people may not have an idea of who to communicate with or who to talk to, you know?
It's a big deal that you have your vision stayed out, your focus stayed outward, right? Out into the future. Hey, I had 2 crappy months in a row or whatever, you know, whatever you were going through. Family, support staff at work, you know, the environment.
Yeah.
Did a lot of that come from sports? How did you get here? A lot of people don't make it through the first 4 years.
Man, it's
especially at a young age.
It's a mix. It's a blend of all those things. You know, definitely family plays a big part in making sure that I'm mentally happy and that I'm actually able to be there for my clients and understand, like, hey, I also do have a family. I have other things outside of just work and being a real estate agent, you know, and finding that balance, that was definitely hard in the beginning. And so, I mean, being with Katie, we do a ton of training on making sure that you're learning how to build a business that's successful, sustainable, but also you actually have a healthy lifestyle as well. And so, I mean, working with Jim Katie, Ethan Broussard, these are the guys that, like, I definitely look up to as mentors. You know, they've taught me so much of how just to grow as a person. Like I said, I mean, I was 20 years old when I got into this industry, and I'm only 25 crazy. Now, but I feel like I'm an old man. Like, I've learned so much from just being around a positive, fruitful environment. You know?
Makes a difference.
It does. It's a complete
I've had
difference.
Good leadership and good mentors in some roles, and I've had less than stellar in other ones. It makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
So for you to get that right off the bat is pretty awesome. So let's go back to, you mentioned commercial real estate hopping up in your engineering job searches. Have you dabbled in commercial? I know I hear about you talking about it every once in a while, but you know, I do residential. So what do you have going on with that? Did that ever turn into anything?
Yeah, man. I mean, pretty much from the jump when I first started at Katie, I made it aware to them that I was highly interested in learning commercial real estate.
Okay.
It's not too many people in our industry or in my office that even really messes with it. So it was something that I wanted to definitely explore and see where it could take me. And I mean, it's definitely something that I'm super proud of. I've been doing a lot of work down in Vermilion Parish. We're actually able to bring a big box store of roses to the area where they brought 45 jobs to Abbeville alone, with over $3 million a year in revenue coming to the city. So
Wow.
it's one of those victories that you're like, okay, yeah, I did that. Let's keep it happening.
You probably get to rub elbows with some higher than normal level folks, making decisions and spending big money.
Yeah, I mean, the conversations are a lot different than selling a home, It's more about the numbers, and whenever I'm reaching out to someone, it's weird coming from a 25-year-old saying, hey, I have this opportunity for you. I think you should take a look at it. Here's the numbers. And they don't expect me to understand what's actually behind everything that's really happening, It all comes back to being a market expert and understanding what you're doing and having that knowledge. And I bring that back to our training, At Katie, whatever you need, whatever tools you want to have to make sure that you're successful, we're going to find a way to get you there,
How hard is it for you to take your commercial hat off, put your residential hat on, and flip back and forth?
It's finding a happy balance, dude. It's very weird because, sometimes I have to step out of the commercial zone and realize, hey, this is somebody's possible forever home. This is one of the biggest purchases that they're ever gonna make. And
it usually is. It's the biggest for probably 9.5 out of 10 people. Mm-hmm. It's the biggest one that they'll ever make until the next time they make it.
Exactly, dude. And you realize that, and you don't get why these people are looking around and like, oh, I don't like the color of the walls. Oh, I don't like this. Those are cosmetic things, and I think of it that way. And that kind of goes back to being direct, but also being genuine, realizing hey, these are things we could fix. Let's look at the structure. Let's look at the floor plan. Let's make sure that it's a healthy and good house for you, And it's kind of making me a better residential agent, I would say, just knowing things that I should be aware of whenever I'm looking to make sure that a house is feasible for my clients.
Well, doing commercial, that's some high-level projects too. And you see what truly is capable. I mean, you can overhaul an entire business and turn it into something else, In
a blink of an eye, and it happens so quick,
I've every once in a while I'll have someone ask me, like, hey, I'm looking at this house, and this house. What do you think? And I'm usually very willing to share, except when they ask me questions like that, because I impart my my preferences and my tastes and stuff like that. And it's always a redirect. Like, what's important to you?
Exactly.
How many kids do you have? How many bedrooms do you want? Well, we found this 4-bedroom, 3-bath house, but the whole house is green and purple. We found this other house, aesthetically it's perfect, but it only has 3 bedrooms. And just kind of letting them know this, you can pay someone to do it quickly. This is a weekend or 2 job from Home Depot, or Lowe's that you can do. We're not talking about breaking down walls and putting up walls and having to get permits and those sorts of things. You can paint the house.
And it's just having that different conversation,
But people do get hyper-focused because they know what they want. It's just sorting through kind of like a triage of what things we can control, what things are going to be a nightmare. I promise you won't want to deal with it, that type of thing.
Definitely those nightmares. And you realize everybody communicates different, It's hard to tell someone, hey, don't buy this house because of this reason. And they've fallen in love with it, their heart's so set on it, and you have to learn a way to kind of break their heart a little bit. But
it's a little bit of that, and it's a little bit of us getting out of our own way. And sometimes you gotta, hey, you do you. Mm-hmm. I'll tell you what I think if you ask me. But it'll always be a pros and cons conversation.
Yeah.
How do you feel about having to take on a task like that? Do you think 18 months from now, you're going to grow out of this? Mm-hmm. What is your life plan? We have crazy conversations. It's way, maybe not everyone that does what I do has those, but if you don't people go deeper.
Yeah, you have to basically give them every scenario possible.
Well, you don't think about it.
Yeah.
When my wife and I got our second house, we were way more experienced just through having been homeowners for almost 7 years before we bought the one that we're living in now. And there were things as we went along through accumulating experience as a homeowner. Oh, the next time we get a house, I don't want that. The next time we want a house, I definitely want these things. And even when we went into it having that list, I don't know if we still didn't write them down. There were still some things that we missed. Luckily, everything worked out. Like the house that we were in has everything that we need. But you get so focused on the search and you kind of get blinders on.
Looking for one specific thing.
That outside. It's kind of like when you go to somebody like, hey, this is how I think this is happening. I feel like I'm too focused on it. I need an outside opinion.
Then you hit them. Cheep, chirp, chirp,
yeah, I always wait for them to ask them. So I have an idea. Let's flip the script real quick. I asked you earlier if it's difficult swapping commercial and residential hats. What were some things from commercial that helped kind of helped you in the residential business? If we were to flip that around, what are some things that you have learned in residential that help you with commercial?
I would definitely say the number one thing that I'm using from residential and the commercial aspect would be my systems. Just bringing that technology that I'm using on the residential side, marketing, the connections that I have with media teams. And I'm bringing that to the commercial side to kind of get a lot more exposure for whatever properties I'm trying to push off or if I'm looking for something specific. So it's just using whatever is available for me on that side and trying to see if there's something that I could kind of make it cohesive in both aspects, you know?
Okay. Yeah, no, once you get in commercial, I don't think people leave. Probably a lot of people have been around for a while.
Yeah.
So you're able to bring some fresh techniques, ideas, maybe using a different tech stack to help the buyer buy whatever they're looking to buy, or if you're listing a property and selling it. So Dyllan, you work with a lot of first-time home buyers. Not all, but a lot. If you were to give some tips for some prospective first-time home buyers, and really that they're applicable to anyone, you know, they could be buying their fifth house, maybe someone who's finally going to think about dipping their foot back into the market after waiting around for 2 years for this supposed housing crash, and that's not happening, and they're watching the home they wanted to buy 2 years ago selling for way more money than it was at the time. So now it costs more. What tips would you give to someone who's looking to purchase real estate?
I mean, the first step, you need to talk to Dyllan, Hawkins, and Derek Roban. I mean, that's the obvious thing. But no, really, I would say talk to an expert advisor in whatever you're looking to do, you know. We have a lot of knowledge and a lot of things that we know of what's happening right now and things that are coming up and to be aware of. And so just being a consumer, you read a bunch of things, you see these national headlines, you see a bunch of news outlets. It's pretty broad, you know, every specific market is different. Every city is different. You want to know exactly what's happening in the area that you want to buy. And that's why you need to talk to someone local who knows exactly what's happening.
So don't Google everything.
Don't Google everything or TikTok.
or listen to everyone. You can always listen. Yeah. Take it with a grain of salt. I mentioned this on a prior episode. Not everyone is going to be honest. They're trying to be helpful. And I say not honest, not that they're not going to lie, but you don't get all the details just through inadvertent omission. Because a lot of times, you know, even for third and fourth and fifth time home buyers, they still don't get a grasp of everything that's going on. Mm-hmm. There's no context. Hey, you shouldn't pay that much for a house, or your interest rate should be this. And
like, okay,
what year did you do that? What loan program did you use? What's your credit score?
There's so many different factors that go into it.
There's so many different things.
And that's why I tell a lot of people.
So you want people to eliminate the noise, and just
focus
and listen and get some expert advice.
Yeah. I mean, and I tell all of my clients, I get a bunch of calls from my friends. They're like, I want to look at this house. How much is it going to be a month? Like, let's sit down. It all starts with a conversation. You got to talk to them, you know?
You're probably having a lot of those. I mean, you said you were 25.
Yeah.
So everyone's kind of getting to that point where
they're getting married. They're having kids
all
now,
the things,
you know? So it's one of those things where they need the answers. They want to be guided. They want to understand. And so sitting down with someone like us, see where you are, see where you need to be. If the time isn't right now, we can help you guide. We can help guide you to get you to where you need to be in 2, 3, 4 months down the road for whenever the time is right. We got the ball rolling. We ready to shop.
Or hell, maybe just 2 weeks. You know, not exactly tomorrow, but maybe just 2 weeks.
Exactly. It's the small things, you know.
I think your internet search brought you to Katie Real Estate for a reason. I can tell you unequivocally, and you can speak to this too. I mean, you have friends 24, 25, 26. Most people that are kind of getting into that first time home buying age, generally, statistically when people do it, they don't have a peer or a classmate or a best friend at their age that has been doing this for 5 years already.
Yeah.
So
Like, oh, Dyllan knows what's happening. I mean,
most people don't. They have to rely on someone which is always a good thing, someone who's experienced. But now you can say, hey, I'm 25, but I'm experienced as all get out.
I mean, I've been around in the mix
That's a unique value proposition.
Yeah.
Because you're living the same life as them. You just happen to have all the knowledge, all the knowledge and stuff that it would normally be help someone who was a little further along in life than they would be otherwise.
And so our conversations look a lot different. Whenever I do meet with clients my age, they feel a lot more comfortable.
It's relatable.
It's relatable. They understand, like, I've been through this process. We know how it works. And I wouldn't put you somewhere I wouldn't feel comfortable, and I'm gonna make sure that you make the best decision of your life. And when they look at it from that aspect, they're like, okay, let's roll with it. Basically, it's almost like I'm shopping for a house for me sometimes, because they have that much confidence in me. They're like, yeah, Dyllan got me. Dyllan gonna make sure that this is where I need to be. And that's the best feeling ever,
Yeah. So expert advice. If you're thinking of doing something, you probably don't want people to wait until the last minute and work backwards to see if they can actually do something once they get their hopes up.
Man, the biggest thing that hurts my heart is when someone calls me or they send me a Zillow pic and they're like, I love this house. I want to go take a look at it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, dude, let's sit down. Let's get you pre-approved first. Let's see where you are. I don't want you to fall in love with this home. And this has to be the home that you live in. And it turns out there's things that we need to work on to get you there. And you're heartbroken and you're so discouraged that you can't get where you want to be right now. It's a process. It's a proven, repeatable system. It's backed by market research. We know what we need to do to get you there. And so just having that conversation and understanding, like, okay, I need to make sure my finances are in order. I need to get pre-approved. I'm ready to shop for a house. Because if we don't go through that process, I've seen it countless times. People, they lose out on the house that they love, and it hurts their heart. It's like, now you have to be a counselor. Now you're trying to console someone because they've fallen in love with Zillow pictures, haven't even stepped foot in it yet, or have, and they can't buy it,
That's right. So when you're having conversations with these first-time home buyers, or really, again, anyone who's looking to hop back in the market, who hasn't purchased in the last 3 to 4 years because they're being held hostage by those low interest rates from the COVID era, ballpark, over the last 6 months, what percentage of buyers have you spoken to that said that they wanted to wait?
I would say about 65% of them. I mean, over half want to wait. I'm like, why? I mean, if you could buy now, buy,
Yeah. So I'm hearing you say 50 to 60%. And I'm thinking back to an article I read on MBS Highway this morning that kind of gave a market update. The Case-Shiller Price Index was released this morning, the numbers. It's considered to be the gold standard on property values nationally. The figures that came out today said that in December of 23, home prices went up 0.2% nationally on average. And that year over year, December of 22 to December of 23, home prices are up on average nationally 5.6%. So what does that mean? If you talk to someone in January and they were looking at a $300,000 house, that house is now $316,800. I asked a rhetorical question before on a prior episode that says, how do you calculate the cost of waiting? That is how you calculate the cost of waiting. These people are house hostages with interest rates that they probably don't want to ever get rid of. And now they're in homes they don't like anymore, that don't suit their needs. Probably heard on the news that the housing market was going to crash. A major correction or some sort of a crash. And now that's what 5.6% looks like. $16,800 on a $300,000 house. That's the cost of waiting.
That's money you basically gave away.
Gave away.
And you know, people are hooked on interest rates right now. They're like, interest rates are so high, interest rates, interest rates. Like, forget all that. What do you want to pay a month? What do you want to be in every month? Cost-wise, what do you want to be looking at? If you tell me that, it's a whole different conversation, you know? And
They are payment driven.
yeah.
A coach of mine said that he was comparing and contrasting the interest rate environments, prior years to current. And one thing that he hears, like what we're all hearing on the lending side, is interest rates, interest rates, interest rates. You know, ironically, realtors were probably hearing about interest rates for the first time more so than the houses themselves. And he said, interest rates are irrelevant. So I'm sitting there, I'm listening. I'm like, tell me more. You know, just waiting to see what he said. And he said something that was so simple, but it made so much sense. And he said, it doesn't matter what the interest rate is. People live in the payments. And he was right. And then I immediately had flashbacks because the conversations I'm having now, hey, what's my payment? What's my payment? What's my payment? Guess what conversations I was having when the interest rates were 2.625 on a 30-year fix with no points? What's my payment? Everyone was living in the payment.
So what's my payment? That's all they worried about.
So what does it matter? You know what you're going to be doing when someone, when you call me or somebody calls me later, whenever, things kind of ease up and we have people who've bought over the last year and a half that are going to be refinancing. They're not going to be calling and necessarily saying, hey, what are the interest rates doing? Because they're going to be calling me to refi because they will have gone down, at least some, to see if it's worth it to do it or to wait. And then they're going to say, what's my payment?
Simple as that.
All the time. So that was probably the biggest
aha moment ever. You like, okay, it makes sense when you put it like that.
But it's true.
Yeah, it's this perception.
The conversations were exactly the same. So does that mean that you can't buy a home? No. I mean, maybe you can't buy the one, that you want now. Okay. So
work towards it.
Or maybe you can. You're selling a house, you got a ton of equity. Pay the 2 car notes off that you have. Now you can afford the house. Boom.
It's the small things that matter.
Yeah.
And it all starts with talking to
But that's a deeper
people.
Conversation too, right? I could say, hey, your debt to income ratio is X. Here's the best terms available in the market. You can afford a house here. And I could leave it at that, but I don't. Because I asked them what their number one thing was and the subsequent ones after. Right. And one of the answers that I uncovered was, hey, we'd like to be at you have us here. We'd like to be in a house here. Well, let's figure out how to get there. So you mentioned earlier, work-life balance was important. Mm-hmm. What are some things outside of work that help keep you balanced? Do you have some passion projects, some things that you like to devote your time to?
Well, I play guitar, so that's definitely one thing we always bond over. Derek's an awesome guitar player. Don't let him.
No, I'm not. I'm not. I like watching videos of you on the internet play, and then I look at mine and wonder why it doesn't sound like that.
Crazy. But also, I love being active and being a part of something bigger than myself. Last year I helped raise money for cystic fibrosis of Acadiana Foundation. Put on a huge benefit concert and raised over $100,000 just for cystic fibrosis. So
Wow.
it was super awesome, and it's a humbling experience. You learn a lot more about what other people go through, and I definitely encourage people to take a look at cystic fibrosis and realize what it is and how you can help, because there's definitely something that we can help cure.
How did you get involved with the organization?
I was just lucky enough to have people around me at Katy who were involved, and they nominated me for Acadiana's Finest, which is the organization who puts on this fundraiser. Okay. And I was honored to be nominated, and I hit the ball rolling.
So you were like the fundraising chair?
I was one of them. So it's one of, I believe 10 of, it was 10 in our group.
Okay.
So, 10 of us raised money for cystic fibrosis that year. Nice. And it was just basically a fundraising contest. We all wanted to outdo each other. We all supported each other's events. We each held different events throughout South Louisiana. And so it's just really cool to see everybody take a step back from themselves, from their busy work lives. These are all business professionals who run small businesses and made it about something else bigger than ourselves, and it's one of those things I'm very proud of.
Are you looking into getting into any other organizations, or are you 100% in cystic fibrosis?
Definitely still involved with cystic fibrosis. They have a lot of things coming up as well, but I mean, I'm always looking for great opportunities to network and just to help people. You know, just coming from that genuine place again, just wanting to be someone that people can rely on and that they can depend on.
Sure. You said they had some big stuff coming up. Is the fundraiser that you were involved with last year? There's a big one this year, I would imagine. Is it this summer? Is it in the fall?
Yeah, so every July they do that big fundraiser banquet, and more details should be following pretty soon, actually.
Okay. Well, whenever that comes up, be sure to share it with me, and I'll put it on here.
Cool. Then.
All right, man. Well, thanks for coming, D. If we'd have, looking back, talking 4 years ago that we'd be doing a video podcast today, talking about, you know, where we are, where we've been, and how we got here, I would have told you were crazy.
Who would have thought?
Who would have thought? Thanks for coming.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Right,